Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel where we dive into the eerie side of history. Today, we're uncovering a chilling mystery from 1909, a wedding photo where the groom smiles happily, but his reflection in the mirror behind him doesn't. It's a tale of hidden secrets and unexplained anomalies that will leave you questioning what's real. If you're already hooked, hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow. In the bustling heart of New York City, on a crisp autumn morning in 1909, the air hummed with the excitement of new beginnings. The streets of Manhattan were alive with the clatter of horse-drawn carriages and the distant honk of early automobiles weaving through crowds dressed in their Sunday best. It was the era of progress, with skyscrapers just starting to pierce the skyline, casting long shadows over cobblestone paths lined with gas lamps that still flickered at dusk. Amid this vibrant backdrop, Elias Hawthorne and his bride, Clara Beaumont, were set to exchange vows in a modest ceremony at the old St. Patrick's Cathedral, a stone edifice that had stood as a beacon of hope since its completion a decade earlier. Elias was a man of 32, a rising architect whose designs for tenement buildings dotted the Lower East Side. Tall and broad-shouldered, with a neatly trimmed mustache and eyes that sparkled with ambition, he carried himself with the quiet confidence of someone who had clawed his way up from immigrant roots. His family had arrived from Ireland during the famine years, and Elias often spoke of building a legacy that would outlast the hardships his parents endured. Clara, at 28, was the epitome of grace, a schoolteacher from a respectable Brooklyn family, with auburn hair pinned in soft waves and a smile that could light up the dimmest tenement flat. They had met 2 years prior at a charity ball for the city's orphans, bonding over shared dreams of a simpler life away from the grind of urban expansion. The wedding day dawned clear and golden, the kind of weather that made even the smog-choked skyline seem promising. Guests arrived in waves, filling the cathedral's wooden pews with whispers and the rustle of silk gowns. Elias stood at the altar, his tailored suit crisp against the stained glass light filtering through, his heart pounding not with nerves, but with a profound sense of triumph. Clara walked down the aisle on her father's arm, her veil catching the sunbeams like a halo, and when their eyes met, the world narrowed to just the two of them. The priest's words echoed softly in the vaulted space, vows of love, fidelity, and enduring partnership. Rings were exchanged, a kiss sealed the union, and applause erupted as the couple turned to face their future. But tradition demanded more than just the ceremony. In those days, a formal wedding portrait was as essential as the cake itself, a tangible keepsake to capture the moment before life's relentless march pulled everyone back to their routines. The photographer, Mr. Harlan Graves, a wiry man in his 50s with ink-stained fingers and a reputation for capturing the city's elite, had set up his studio in a rented room above a Greenwich Village bakery. The scent of fresh bread wafted up through the floorboards as Elias and Clara arrived arm in arm, still flushed from the festivities. Graves arranged them carefully, Clara seated on a velvet chaise, her bouquet of white lilies resting in her lap, and Elias standing beside her, one hand gently on her shoulder. Behind them, to add depth to the composition, hung a large antique mirror, its ornate gold frame etched with floral motifs imported from some European estate and rented for occasions like this. "Smile for the camera, Mr. Hawthorne," Graves instructed, his voice muffled behind the black cloth of his large format camera. "Think of all the happiness ahead." Elias obliged, his lips curving into a genuine radiant grin that crinkled the corners of his eyes. Clara mirrored his joy, her laughter bubbling up as the photographer adjusted the pose one last time. The flash powder ignited with a sharp pop, filling the room with a brief, blinding light. It was over in seconds, and the couple departed, buzzing with post-wedding elation, unaware that the glass behind them had captured something far more inscrutable. Weeks passed, and the developed photograph arrived by messenger to the Hawthornes' new apartment on the Upper West Side, a cozy 2-room flat overlooking the Hudson River. where the evening fog rolled in like a soft blanket. Clara unboxed it eagerly, propping it on the mantel above their cast-iron stove. "Oh, Elias, look at us! We look so eternal," she said, her voice warm with affection. He joined her, wrapping an arm around her waist, and together they admired the image, the perfect couple, frozen in bliss. But as the light shifted with the setting sun, Elias's gaze lingered on the mirror's reflection. At first, he dismissed it as a trick of the shadows, a smudge on the print perhaps, or the way the light had played during exposure. Yet there it was, his own face staring back, not with a smile, but with a somber, almost stern expression. His eyes in the glass seemed fixed not on Clara, but directly at the viewer, as if pleading across the divide of time. The discovery unsettled him more than he cared to admit. That night, as Clara slept soundly beside him, Elias sat up in bed, the photograph clutched in his hands. The room was quiet, save for the distant rumble of an elevated train, and the gas lamp cast flickering shadows on the walls. Why would his reflection betray such discord when his heart had been so full? He traced the lines of the image with his finger, wondering if it was merely an optical illusion, a flaw in Graves' technique. But deep down, a whisper of doubt crept in, the kind that gnaws at the edges of certainty, hinting at secrets buried just beneath the surface of ordinary life. The next morning, over a breakfast of oatmeal and strong coffee, Elias mentioned it casually to Clara. "Darling, have you noticed anything odd in the photo? My reflection, it looks a bit off." She glanced at it, tilting her head. "Perhaps it's the angle, love. Mirrors can be tricky things." But her reassurance did little to ease the knot in his stomach. Elias decided to visit Graves's studio, hoping for an explanation rooted in the mechanics of photography rather than something more elusive. Graves, polishing his lenses in the cluttered space, examined the print under a magnifying glass. "Fascinating," he muttered, his brow furrowing. "The exposure was even, the chemicals fresh. I've never seen a reflection diverge like this. It's as if the mirror saw something the lens didn't." His words hung in the air, heavy with implication. Elias left with more questions than answers, the image burning in his mind like an unsolved riddle. Little did he know, this anomaly was merely the first thread in a tapestry of mysteries that would unravel long after his lifetime. As Elias returned home that evening, the city lights twinkling like distant stars, he couldn't shake the feeling that the mirror had glimpsed a truth he himself had long suppressed. In the years that followed, life marched on. Children were born, careers flourished, but the photograph remained on the mantel, a silent sentinel watching over the Hawthorne family. Elias never spoke of it again, not to Clara, not to anyone. Yet every so often, when alone, he'd catch his gaze drifting to that somber reflection, wondering what it knew that he dared not face. If you're enjoying this story so far, drop a like and subscribe. It means the world to the channel. Decades slipped by like pages in a well-worn book, and the Hawthorne photograph faded into family lore, passed down through generations until it landed in the dusty attic of a suburban home in upstate New York. By the 1980s, Elias and Clara's great-granddaughter, librarian Margaret Maggie Riley, had inherited the estate after her parents' passing. Maggie, a meticulous woman in her mid-40s with wire-rimmed glasses and a penchant for historical puzzles, spent her weekends sifting through yellowed letters and forgotten heirlooms. The city she knew was a far cry from 1909 Manhattan. No more elevated trains rattling past tenements, but sleek subways and towering glass monoliths that reflected a modern America. One rainy afternoon in 1985, as thunder rumbled over the Hudson Valley, Maggie uncovered the photograph amid a trunk of Elias's old blueprints. The attic smelled of aged paper and mothballs, its slanted ceiling pressing down like a secret keeper. She wiped the dust from the frame, and there it was again, the smiling groom, the joyful bride, and that haunting mirror image. Maggie's pulse quickened. As a history buff with a side interest in early 20th century photography, she recognized the anomaly immediately, not just a curiosity, but a potential enigma worthy of deeper scrutiny. That evening, over a solitary dinner of soup and bread in her cozy kitchen, Maggie pored over the image under a desk lamp. The rain pattered against the window, blurring the view of the darkening woods outside. "What were you hiding, Elias?" she murmured to the empty room. Her curiosity ignited. She reached out to local historians at the New York Public Library, where she worked part-time. Dr. Leonard Voss, a silver-haired expert on Gilded Age society, agreed to meet her the following week. "Anomalies in old photos aren't uncommon," he cautioned over the phone, his voice crackling through the line. "Double exposures, chemical defects, but this, send it over." Their meeting took place in the library's archive room, a cavernous space lined with steel shelves, groaning under the weight of bound volumes and fragile documents. Voss adjusted his spectacles, holding the photo to the light. "Remarkable. The reflection's expression is too deliberate to be a flaw. Look at the eyes. They're engaged, almost accusatory." Maggie leaned in, her heart racing. Voss suggested consulting photography enthusiasts and even a restorer, but as they delved deeper, fragments of the Hawthorne story emerged from public records. Elias's successful career, Clara's quiet life as a mother of three, and a vague mention in a 1912 Society column of unforeseen tensions in the family shortly after the wedding. Maggie's research expanded, pulling her into late nights at the library, surrounded by the scent of leather-bound books and the hum of fluorescent lights. She uncovered letters, faded correspondence between Elias and his brother Patrick, who had remained in Ireland. One, dated 1908, hinted at financial strains. "The investments in the city are risky, brother. Do not let pride blind you to the debts mounting." Another, post-wedding, spoke of a shadow over the union, one that mirrors cannot hide. The words chilled her. Were these debts the somber face in the glass, or something more personal, a regret Elias carried silently? Word of the anomaly spread quietly through academic circles. A freelance photographer, young and eager Javier Ruiz, contacted Maggie after reading about it in a niche journal. Javier, with his digital camera slung over his shoulder and a tattoo peeking from his sleeve, met her at a coffee shop in Albany. "I've replicated old techniques," he explained, stirring his espresso. "Let me try posing with that mirror. Science might explain it." They experimented in his studio, a converted garage filled with tripods and developing trays. But even with precise lighting, Javier's reflections matched his expressions. No discrepancies. "It's not the mirror or the method," he concluded, frustration etching his features. "It's something about that moment, that man." As autumn deepened into winter, snow blanketing the city in a hush, Maggie's obsession grew. She visited the old Greenwich Village site where Graves' studio once stood, now a trendy cafe with exposed brick walls. The owner, amused by her tale, pointed her to a hidden basement alcove where vintage props lingered. There, amid forgotten costumes, she found a ledger from Graves' business listing the Hawthorne session. A notation caught her eye. Special request, mirror polished twice. Subject, uneasy post-exposure. Uneasy. Why? Maggie's dreams began to mirror the mystery. Night after night, she'd wake with the image of Elias's stern gaze, as if he were reaching out from the past. During a holiday gathering with her book club, she shared the photo, and the room fell silent. "It's like he's warning us," one friend whispered, her voice trembling. Maggie brushed it off as imagination, but doubt lingered. She delved into psychological angles. Could stress manifest in a reflection? Experts she consulted dismissed it, citing no precedent. Yet the more she learned of Elias's life, the pressures of providing for a growing family amid economic booms and busts, the more the somber face seemed a portrait of unspoken burdens. By spring 1986, Maggie had compiled a dossier. Timelines, letters, even interviews with distant relatives who recalled Elias as a man of secrets, always glancing over his shoulder. One cousin, elderly and frail, met her in a nursing home overlooking the river. "He never spoke of the wedding photo," the woman rasped, her hands knotted with age. "But after, he avoided mirrors, said they showed too much." Maggie's resolve hardened. This wasn't just a curiosity. It was a window into a soul, fractured by the weight of hidden truths. As the investigation deepened, alliances formed. Voss introduced her to a network of archivists, and Javier became a steadfast collaborator, his enthusiasm matching her determination. Together, they pieced together the puzzle, each discovery pulling them closer to 1909's shadows. But with every revelation, the mystery thickened, the mirror's gaze growing more insistent, as if urging them onward. What if the reflection wasn't a flaw, but a confession? Maggie wondered, staring at the photo late one night, the house creaking around her like an old friend's sigh. The city slept beyond her window, but sleep evaded her, replaced by the relentless pull of the unknown. What do you think is really going on with that reflection? Leave a comment below with your thoughts so far. Summer 1986 brought a sweltering heat to New York, turning the streets into shimmering mirages and the library's air into a stifling haze. Maggie Riley, now fully immersed in the Hawthorne enigma, expanded her search beyond the city's archives, traveling to Boston, where Elias's business records were housed in a stately museum. The journey by train was a blur of green countryside giving way to urban sprawl, her mind racing ahead to the documents that might illuminate the groom's hidden turmoil. Javier accompanied her, his camera bag a constant companion, snapping candid shots of their quest to document the unfolding story. In the museum's climate-controlled vault, amid the scent of preserved paper and polished wood, they unearthed ledgers from Elias's architectural firm. Entries from 1909 revealed loans taken against future projects, debts that ballooned with the panic of that year, a financial tremor that shook Wall Street and rippled through immigrant communities like the Hawthorns. "He was overextended," Voss explained during a conference call, his voice tinny over the line. "Many men like him gambled on the city's growth, only to face ruin." But the numbers told only part of the tale. Personal notes in Elias's handwriting hinted at desperation. "Must protect Clara from this. The mirror knows." Back in New York, Maggie's apartment became a war room, walls papered with timelines, photographs pinned like clues in a detective novel. The Hudson's waters lapped steadily outside, a rhythmic counterpoint to her growing anxiety. Javier, ever the optimist, suggested consulting a forensic photographer from the NYPD, Dr. Elena Torres, a no-nonsense expert with sharp features and a lab coat, analyzed the print under ultraviolet light. "No tampering," she reported, her eyes narrowing. "The discrepancy is in the exposure itself, as if his face shifted in that instant. Emotionally, perhaps." Emotionally. The word lingered, pointing to the human core of the mystery. As leads multiplied, so did the obstacles. A fire in a storage facility destroyed potential Clara Hawthorne diaries, leaving Maggie to sift through newspaper clippings instead. One from 1910 described a domestic discord at the Hawthorne residence, vague enough to fuel speculation, but not confirm it. Relatives proved elusive. Many had scattered across the Midwest, their memories faded by time, yet persistence yielded fruits. A letter from Patrick Hawthorne, smuggled from Ireland in 1911, arrived via an international archive. "Elias, the shame you carry, release it before it consumes you. The wedding was meant to be joy, not a mask." Shame? What shame could twist a man's reflection into sorrow? Maggie's personal life intertwined with the probe. Her brother Tom, a skeptical accountant visiting from Chicago, scoffed at the obsession during a family dinner. The table was laden with roast chicken and potatoes, laughter echoing in the dining room. but tension simmered. "You're chasing ghosts in glass, sis," Tom said, fork pausing midair. "Elias was just a guy under pressure. Economy, family, the works." His words stung, but they grounded her, reminding her of the story's human stakes. Javier, sensing her doubt, offered support over late-night walks along the riverfront, where fireflies danced in the humid air. "We're uncovering his truth," he encouraged, his voice steady. "Whatever it is, it matters." The investigation hit a breakthrough in autumn, when Voss connected them to an elderly photographer's apprentice, now 92, and residing in a quiet Florida retirement home. Over a crackling phone line, Mr. Alfred Klein recounted his days with Graves. Elias was jovial during the pose, but right after the flash, he changed, stared at the mirror like it accused him. Graves noted it, said the man carried a weight. Klein's words painted Elias not as a villain, but a man ensnared by circumstance. Further digging revealed a lawsuit from 1909, a client accusing Elias of faulty building designs, nearly bankrupting him days before the wedding. Had he hidden this from Clara, smiling through the fear? Emotional toll mounted. Maggie experienced vivid flashbacks, not hallucinations, but empathy-fueled visions of Elias's world, the pressure of providing, the fear of failure in a city that devoured the weak. During a storm-lashed night, thunder shaking her windows, she confided in Javier. "It's like the mirror captured his soul's fracture, the joy he projected versus the dread inside." He nodded, squeezing her hand. "And we're the ones piecing it back together." Collaborators deepened the bond. Voss hosted a small symposium at the library where experts debated optical illusion or psychological artifact. Attendees, a mix of academics and enthusiasts, buzzed in the wood-paneled hall, coffee cups steaming. One theory posited reflective dissonance, a rare phenomenon where stress alters micro-expressions mid-exposure. But none explained the direct gaze, as if Elias addressed posterity. As winter approached, snow dusting the city like powdered sugar, Maggie uncovered a final thread, a locked diary in the family trunk, its key long lost. With Javier's help, they pried it open, revealing Elias's confessions. Entries of love for Clara mingled with guilt over concealed debts and a near infidelity born of loneliness during long work nights. "The mirror saw the man I hide," one passage read. "It smiles not with me, but at my deceit." Tears blurred Maggie's vision. The somber reflection was no anomaly, but a revelation of inner conflict. Yet questions persisted. Why that exact moment? Was the debt the full story, or lurked a deeper family secret? The group pressed on, their determination a bulwark against uncertainty. In the quiet hours, Maggie gazed at the photo, feeling Elias's presence, a silent partner in the unraveling. If this mystery has you on the edge of your seat, give it a like and subscribe for more intriguing tales. By early 1987, the Hawthorne investigation had evolved into a quiet phenomenon, covered in a local history podcast that drew listeners from across the Northeast. Maggie Riley, once a solitary researcher, now coordinated with a loose network of allies. Their meetings held in cozy diners, where the aroma of frying eggs and bacon fueled animated discussions. The winter chill had given way to a tentative spring, budding trees lining the streets as New York shook off its frosty coat. But for Maggie, the warmth brought no relief. Each new clue only amplified the enigma, the mirror's gaze a constant companion in her thoughts. Voss, ever the academic anchor, organized a deeper archival dive at the New York Historical Society. The building's grand halls, with their marble floors and towering columns, echoed with the footsteps of scholars past. There, amid climate-controlled cases, they found court documents from the 1909 lawsuit. Elias, accused of cutting corners on a tenement project to meet deadlines, endangering lives. He settled out of court, but the stain lingered, eroding his reputation. This could explain the somber look, Voss posited, adjusting his glasses. Guilt over professional ethics hidden from his new wife. Maggie nodded, but the direct stare nagged. Too personal, too knowing. Javier, leveraging his tech savvy, digitized the photo and ran simulations on early computers, bulky machines humming in his studio. If we reverse engineer the light, he explained, fingers flying over keys, the reflection aligns with Elias's pose, but the expression doesn't. It's like his face was superimposed emotionally. Their experiments yielded no definitive proof, only more what-ifs. Elena Torres returned with psychological insights. In high-stress moments, the subconscious can surface in subtle ways. Perhaps the flash triggered a micro-shift, capturing his true state. But science offered no closure. The anomaly defied easy categorization. Personal growth emerged amid the pursuit. Maggie, who had long buried her own regrets after a failed marriage, found catharsis in Elias's story. During a rainy afternoon tea with Voss, she shared, "Uncovering this has made me face my mirrors, literally and figuratively." He smiled kindly. History heals when we confront it. Javier too evolved, his initial curiosity blooming into a passion for historical preservation. Their friendship, forged in late-night brainstorms, provided the support Elias might have craved, a network to share burdens. Obstacles persisted. A rival collector attempted to buy the photo at auction, forcing Maggie to outbid with savings scraped from her salary. "It's not for sale," she declared firmly to the auctioneer, her voice steady. Relatives resurfaced, some skeptical, others contributing faded memories. One great-niece, visiting from California, brought an oral tale. Grandpa Elias whispered once about a curse of reflection. Nothing supernatural, just the fear of seeing one's flaws. The word curse sent shivers, though Maggie grounded it in psychology, projection of inner demons onto the glass. As summer heated up, the group hit a wall. No more documents, no eyewitnesses left. They compiled findings into a manuscript, The Mirror's Secret, a 1909 enigma, shared at a small exhibit in the library. Attendees marveled, whispers filling the room. Is it a hoax? A sign? Maggie moderated a panel, her confidence shining. We may never know the full truth, but Elias's story reminds us of the hidden struggles behind every smile. Yet the unresolved lingered. Late one evening, as fireflies flickered outside her window, Maggie sat with the photo, tracing Elias's stern eyes. The debts, the guilt, the unspoken fears, they painted a man much like any other, burdened by life's realities. But why the gaze? Did he sense the camera's permanence, a chance to confess silently? Or was it mere coincidence amplified by time? The team vowed to continue, archiving everything for future sleuths. Javier filmed a documentary snippet, capturing the photo's quiet power. Voss penned endorsements, praising the human drama unearthed. Maggie, reflecting in her own mirror, saw not sorrow, but resolve. Elias's legacy, a call to authenticity. In the end, the mystery hovered, an open question mark. What truth did the reflection hold? A financial secret? A deeper emotional rift? Or simply the raw face of a man at a crossroads? The mirror kept its counsel, inviting endless wonder. As the 1990s unfolded like a slow, revealing photograph, the Hawthorne enigma refused to fade into obscurity, instead blossoming into a cultural phenomenon that bridged the analog past with the digital age. Maggie Riley, now a silver-haired woman in her late 50s, had transitioned from solitary librarian to a respected curator of historical mysteries. Her home in upstate New York, a modest Victorian with creaking floorboards and a wraparound porch overlooking the ever-changing Hudson River, became a hub for enthusiasts. The river, once a gritty industrial artery in Elias's time, now hosted leisurely cruises and kayakers, its waters reflecting the progress of a nation that had weathered wars, depressions, and booms. Maggie often sat on her porch in the early mornings, sipping black coffee from a chipped mug, watching the mist rise as she pondered how one frozen image could ripple through decades. The original photograph, carefully preserved under glass in a climate-controlled case she'd installed in her living room, drew visitors from afar. Word had spread through underground history newsletters and early internet forums, crude bulletin boards where users typed in all caps about the smiling groom who wouldn't reflect. By 1992, Javier Ruiz, her steadfast collaborator, had parlayed their shared obsession into a burgeoning career. No longer the eager freelancer with a garage studio, he now operated from a loft in Brooklyn, surrounded by editing bays and shelves of vintage cameras. "This story isn't just about Elias," he'd say during their weekly calls, his voice crackling over landlines. "It's about how we all hide parts of ourselves." Together, they expanded the dossier, digitizing every scrap. The letters, the ledgers, even sketches Javier made of possible lighting setups that could explain the anomaly. One crisp autumn day in 1993, as leaves turned the Hudson Valley into a palette of reds and golds, Maggie received an unexpected package from a descendant in Seattle, Clara Hawthorne's great-niece, a retired teacher named Lydia. Inside were bundles of letters tied with faded ribbon, postmarked after Elias's death in 1942 from what records called heart failure, though family whispers hinted at a life worn thin by unspoken worries. Lydia's accompanying note was brief. "These were tucked away in my attic. Grandpa Elias carried sorrows to the grave, ones the mirror first revealed. Perhaps they'll help." Maggie spent the afternoon in her study, the room warmed by a crackling fireplace that filled the air with the scent of burning oak. Unfolding the brittle pages, she read Clara's elegant script. Accounts of family life in the 1920s, the stock market crash shattering their savings, and Elias's growing withdrawal. "He'd stare at that wedding photo for hours," one entry confided, dated 1930, as if arguing with his own shadow in the glass. Whatever truth it held, he took it with him. The letters added layers to the mystery without resolving it, painting Elias as a man whose professional triumphs masked personal tempests. Maggie shared them with Dr. Elena Torres, who had since published a paper on reflective anomalies in historical photography in a psychology journal. Elena, now heading a research lab at Columbia University, visited over a snowy weekend, her boots leaving wet tracks on the welcome mat. They pored over the documents at Maggie's oak dining table, steam rising from mugs of chamomile tea. "These suggest chronic anxiety," Elena noted, her pen scratching notes. Elias might have experienced a dissociative moment during the flash, his public smile cracking to reveal the private dread. The mirror, being a symbol of self-confrontation, amplified it. Indeed, but even Elena admitted the direct gaze defied explanation. It wasn't just somber, it was intimate, as if Elias were confiding directly to whoever viewed it a century later. Javier's documentary, Reflections of Truth, premiered at the Tribeca Film Festival in 1994, transforming the Hawthorne story into a multimedia event. The theater, a converted warehouse with exposed beams and velvet seats, hummed with anticipation as the lights dimmed. The screen filled with high-definition scans of the photo, narrated in Javier's warm baritone, intercut with reenactments. Actors in period attire, posing in a recreated Greenwich Village studio, the antique mirror gleaming under gaslight replicas. No cheap effects, just careful lighting to mimic 1909 conditions. The audience gasped at the reveal, murmurs rippling like wind through the rows. Post-screening, during the Q&A, questions flew. Was it a hoax? A skeptical journalist asked. Or proof of something deeper? Javier deferred to Maggie, who stood at the podium, her voice steady despite the spotlight's glare. It's neither fully hoax nor supernatural. It's human, the raw edge of emotion captured by chance. The film's success brought challenges. Online skeptics, emboldened by emerging chat rooms, accused the duo of sensationalism, posting grainy scans with red circles around the reflection, labeling it obvious Photoshop before Photoshop existed. Maggie countered with public lectures, traveling to libraries from Boston to Philadelphia, where she'd project the image on walls and dissect it slide by slide. "Look closely," she'd urge, her pointer tracing the eyes. "No tampering, no tricks. Just a man at his most vulnerable." Supporters multiplied too. A young historian from Yale emailed theories about emulsion memory, suggesting chemical residues could hold fleeting expressions. Maggie invited her to collaborate, expanding the team to include digital analysts who ran algorithms on scanned negatives, confirming the image's integrity through carbon dating and spectral analysis. Emotional undercurrents wove through the pursuit. For Maggie, the mystery had become a mirror to her own life. Divorced in the 70s after years of quiet dissatisfaction, she'd buried regrets under work and routine. Now, in her 60s, Elias's story prompted introspection. During a solitary walk along the Hudson one foggy evening in 1995, the path crunching underfoot with fallen leaves, she journaled her thoughts. "Chasing his secret mended my fractures. What we hide doesn't vanish. It reflects back, waiting." She shared this in her memoir, Shadows in the Glass, self-published in 1996. The book, with its plain cover featuring a subtle outline of the photo, sold modestly at first through history shops but gained traction via book clubs. Readers wrote letters, dozens arriving weekly, confessing their own mirror moments: a father hiding job loss, a mother masking grief. "Your story gave me courage to face mine," one read, postmarked from rural Ohio. Dr. Leonard Voss's passing that same year cast a pall. The old historian, bedridden in his Manhattan apartment overlooking Central Park, had been a mentor until the end. At his funeral, a simple affair in a chapel fragrant with lilies, Maggie eulogized him. "Leonard taught us that history isn't dates, it's the unspoken weights we carry." His final notes, bequeathed to her, affirmed the enigma's value. "This is no mere artifact, it's a portal to empathy, reminding us of the dualities within." Grief fueled her resolve. She endowed a scholarship in his name for young archivists, ensuring the Hawthorne tale lived on. By the late 90s, as the internet exploded with dial-up modems screeching connections, the mystery went viral in analog form. Articles in magazines like American Heritage and features on public radio. Javier adapted the memoir into a script for a PBS special, filming on location the remnants of St. Patrick's Cathedral, now dwarfed by skyscrapers, and the Upper West Side apartment buildings that echoed the Hawthornes' old flat. Challenges persisted. A tabloid claimed the photo was cursed, prompting prank calls to Maggie's home, but she dismissed them with humor, replying, "Curses are for fairy tales, this is real life." Family dynamics shifted too. Her brother Tom, once the skeptic, attended a screening and afterward hugged her tightly. "You were right, sis. It's about the people behind the pixels." As the millennium loomed, exhibitions toured nationally. The Smithsonian in Washington, D.C. Here's where crowds milled under vaulted ceilings, gasping at the display case. Local galleries in Chicago, where school groups debated in hushed tones. Each stop elicited fresh interpretations. A psychologist at one event posited undiagnosed depression, common in Elias's era when mental health was taboo. "The reflection was his subconscious cry," she explained, her words resonating in the echoing hall. Maggie moderated panels, her presence a calm anchor amid the buzz. "We may never pinpoint the exact why," she'd conclude, "but Elias teaches us to look deeper, not just at photos, but at each other." In quieter interludes, Maggie reflected on the open-endedness. Late nights in her study, lamplight casting long shadows, she'd trace the photo's frame, wondering, did Elias foresee the financial crashes ahead, the wars that would claim his sons? Or was it a fleeting doubt about his vows, born of pre-wedding nerves? The debts and lawsuit explained much, the stern face of a provider fearing failure. But the gaze suggested more, perhaps a family secret buried deeper, like a sibling's illness back in Ireland, or a youthful indiscretion, Clara never knew. Science offered partial answers. Micro-expression studies showed stress could alter faces in milliseconds, the flash freezing that split-second truth. Yet the emotional directness eluded quantification. The team's work evolved into legacy building. Javier launched a website in 1999, a simple HTML page with the photo and interactive timelines, drawing global visitors. Elena's research spawned classes on historical psychology. Maggie mentored a new generation, interns who arrived wide-eyed, leaving inspired. Her own growth peaked in forgiveness, writing a letter to Elias's spirit, not mystical but metaphorical. She burned it in the fireplace, ashes swirling up the chimney like released burdens. As Y2K fears gripped the world, the Hawthorne mystery stood as a testament to enduring human complexity. Joy and shadow, smile and frown, intertwined in glass, inviting endless wonder. What truth did the reflection truly hold? A confession of guilt, a warning unheeded, or merely the poignant reminder that no portrait captures the whole soul? The mirror kept its silent counsel, a bridge across time, urging viewers to examine their own reflections and ask, what am I not saying? The investigation, though evolved, never truly ended. Future eyes, perhaps yours, would gaze upon it, pondering the shadows that linger in every light. If you enjoyed this chilling dive into the unknown, leave a comment below. I love hearing your opinions and answering questions. And if you're not subscribed yet, hit that button and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next mystery.